instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod. Yes, indeed. Welcome to the Flagstick Podcast, the year-end show, I guess, if you will. I am your host, or one of your hosts, Jeff Potter, and the Flagstick Podcast is presented once again by our very good friends at Srixon Golf Canada. Srixon golf balls, I've been playing these things for a very long time. Love them. I love them. So whether you're looking for a premium urethane option in the Z-Star series, a quality budget option in the soft feel, or somewhere in between with the Q-Star Tour, we're sure that Srixon has the perfect golf ball for your game. Visit srixon.ca for more information. Welcome in, Scott McLeod.
How you doing, bud?
I'm doing awesome. It's the holiday season. I love the holiday season. I don't love the crappy weather that we get sometimes during the holiday season. I do love making the outdoor rink. I do love blowing snow from time to time. I don't like it when we get this mix of garbage mixed in with it.
See, this is the battle I have with people all the time. I say how I hate winter, and they're like, oh, winter's nice, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you know what? It brings the possibility of this crap. So this is why I hate winter. And to our friends out west who are suffering through, record cold as well, family members out there, I feel for them. Lots of friends doing the same thing down south too. I mean,
it's crazy.
Huge weather system, and hopefully everybody gets home safe and sound for the holidays. And
yes, it's funny when this kind of thing happens. Okay, I know we're gonna talk some golf. Stress not. There. We got to get through some fun stuff first. When this kind of weather happens,
is fun.
Here's the sequence in this household that occurs. Okay, so Environment Canada, blah, 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 winter storm warning coming. We're going to get rain mixed with 15 to 20 centimeters of snow. Then it's going to freeze and it's flash freeze, and there's going to be freezing rain and high winds and possible power outages. Oops, the negative word, the bad word, power outages. So what happens? Okay, well, now we got to dig out the downspouts because we don't want the ice to build up at the bottom underneath all the snow and freeze so that the water backs up into the eaves troughs. Second thing, we got to make sure there's a clear path from the driveway to the side of the house where I've got a nice big area dug out so that I can roll the generator out there and plug it into the exterior thing for the, for the generator. And then we got to fill the bathtubs up with water. If there's a power outage, we got to make sure the bathtubs are filled with water.
Is this 1942 or what?
This is the sequence of events, right? And it's like in Evan's plan. Now I got to do that for two properties.
So here's the question: how often does all that become necessary? I mean, I get it; it's preventive measures.
Okay, so when a big windstorm came through and blew everything down, that was the first time that I have ever had the generator plugged into the house since we bought the house back in 2007.
And the first massive power outage since the ice storm in probably 1998. So
you're
talking about twice.
Yes,
that you've had to have these emergency measures.
Yes.
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
But what happens if you don't do all that stuff? And you do. It's like
I get it. Well, what happens if I don't buy a lottery ticket?
Well, that's it. Now here, where you live, you don't have this problem that we have. Where we are, and a lot of people out where I live in the rural areas, we run on a sump pump. So and we're in a high water table. So if we don't have power, the basement floods.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've got to run a generator.
Totally.
So now our generator, we plug it into the house, and then we flick a switch on the inside of the house, and it brings power back to 50% of the house. So during the last windstorm there, we had our fridge was working, our stove was working, we had some lights on, we had the internet. Like it was really like nothing was happening except I had to go out every 30 minutes and check and make sure there was gas and so it's a hassle. I prefer not to,
especially around the holiday season when you're trying to get ready for everything else and you got lots of stuff going on and have to do a podcast in the middle of it. So
which is what we are doing.
Yeah, exactly. We
are doing a podcast. So it's kind of a cool show today because we're not doing a golf instruction. We don't specifically have a product watch feature in this episode. This episode is just really, we got a front nine and we got a back nine and we got a little break in the middle, and we're gonna wrap up the year. We're gonna kind of year in review, if you will. We're gonna highlight some of the cool things that happened throughout the region and with some throughout the country.
Yep.
We're also we do have a few little tidbits to deal with that are more current, just because some things have happened since
Yeah,
the
for sure.
last podcast, and we do want to make sure that we get that information out there. So we're going to start with that.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to start with that. And we're going to start by tipping it up on the front nine, presented by our good friends at Metcalf Golf Club. A natural setting, a pleasant challenge. The holidays are here. It's the perfect time to get the golfer on your list something they would love, a gift of golf from Metcalf Golf Club. So visit metcalfgolf.com and shop now. All right, Scott. Let's talk a little bit about some things that have happened since the last podcast and within the last week before we get into the year in review.
Been a busy last couple of
weeks. You're
actually,
testing stuff. This is your this is your testing seasons for those listening and those watching. This time of year, Scott kind of gets a few invites here and there to go and check out some of the new product that's coming on the market, and it's an opportunity to test some stuff. And this is we'll call it testing season for Mr. McLeod.
Yeah, under embargo for a lot of product. It used to be that a lot of product would be coming out at the PGA show at the end of January. We have a lot of introductions coming around January 10th, 11th, where you'll see a lot of product revealed from many companies. As a media member, I get to sign lovely non-disclosure agreements that usually have financial penalties, so I can't really talk about details of product. No matter what you see out there,
please.
no matter what you see out there, there's a lot of leaks and stuff like that of photos and things. You'll see a lot of takedowns for a lot of that stuff because it's photos grabbed improperly, it's proprietary stuff, whatever the case may be. We may get some sneaks that come from the manufacturers. They may post some early pictures, but rarely will you get all the technical details. So what generally happens is this time of year, get to go to several manufacturers. Used to be we travel a fair bit for those. Obviously, that's tamed the last couple of years, but I'll say I was up at TaylorMade doing some testing up there.
Nice.
Went through their 2023 product line. You'll hear more about that on January 10th and January 20th, I think, are the other embargo dates for the other half of their product. But fun, insightful. And I've also got some Titleist, some of their new white box balls in hand. And I'm actually going to white box balls, which are always fun to go through the prototypes. And one of the things with those is, again, it's easy to, as they say in England, read what's on the tin, but it's kind of real life trying to see what the differences are. Unfortunately, we're doing indoor testing, but I do have the advantage of having an athlete like Noah Steele, who won on the Canadian Tour in 2021. He's going to go through and do the ball testing with me, and we're going to just look at spin rates, some field comparisons, just the things that we can do without dealing with the aerodynamics of ball flight. Because you got to remember, people have to remember that two golf balls can take off the same, but obviously perform much differently in the air. So take that into account when you're looking at doing stuff on just straight launch monitor testing, and particular launch monitors that only measure at impact as opposed to the whole way, especially for golf balls. Clubs are one thing as far as the interaction, but golf balls is all about flight. So I'll be doing that in the next little while, and it should be fun. And who knows what else will filter into the house. I know I've got a couple of product knowledge sessions coming up at the back end of the holiday season here. Just some, online stuff with a couple of other manufacturers right at the start of January. So getting some more details. But we'll be sharing all that on the podcast here and on the website at flagstick.com come January. Just look for lots and lots of equipment stories.
Now you're down in Kingston, so obviously this is kind of a local angle thing that is going on for you down in the Kingston area with Extend a Family.
Yeah, well, this is actually, it is and it isn't. So, I mean, this was brought to me by Todd Kierstead from Paragolf Canada.
Yeah,
does a lot of stuff with.
And does that guy? Does anybody do more?
Well,
for
he's all over the place, just dealing with the extremes of the market, the golfers that are maybe not getting attention. And he came down here last week, I guess it was. Yeah, last week for a grand opening. And Extended Family Kingston is much like a lot of agencies that you will see in all the communities across the country, providing opportunities for people that maybe don't see the opportunities, dealing with special needs and so forth, and their families as well. Extended Family basically, provides recreational opportunities and opportunities for them to learn, people learn life skills and so forth. And one of the things that they've added to their facility down here in Kingston, I've yet to see it. I've seen pictures of it. I've gone back and forth with their executive director a little bit, but they've added an accessible screen golf. So basically a simulator, but it has modified golf tools, we'll say. Mm-hmm. So, clubs that are larger heads and so forth, things that are easier to hit, accessibility for people that if they're in a wheelchair, they can actually, hit golf balls to the side and the screen. These are people that, maybe have never been exposed to golf before or played golf previously. And because of life circumstances, creating, physical challenges for them, now being able to kind of get back and have some sort of semblance of golf in their life. So it's kind of cool to see. And I drive by this place pretty much every day. It's on the way to my daughter's school.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So I'm going to pop in at some point and see how it is, and maybe talk to some of the residents and some of the the users there, and see how that is enhancing their life. But cool just to see golf being utilized.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so
100%.
pretty neat.
And Todd is, I mean, Todd is just an absolutely amazing human being.
Yeah, I spent some time with him in Whistler this year. He was out there when I was there and doing a clinic, and yeah, he just he gives with his whole heart.
Oh, no question. It's on his sleeve. It's all over the place.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so some other things, just news related stuff, and we like to get news is fun, but not necessarily as fun as the rest of this show might be. So
just some mentions, really, more than anything, right?
So why don't you just follow up on some of the news related stuff, and then we can get into some other good things.
Yeah, just some quick things. Maddie Zarek, people probably saw, she was quite successful this year at the CP Women's Open. She had an LPGA Tour card this year, but didn't quite get into as many events as she hoped. I believe she played 14 events this year. From London, Ontario, but also lives in Texas as well. She's a dual citizen. She regained her LPGA Tour status through the Q Series, which is grueling. I mean, the finals are 8 rounds, so that was great to see. Very happy for Maddie that she's back out there. Aaron Cockrell from Manitoba continues to be quite successful. He had a top 5 finish there to finish up his season on the DP World Tour. Got his season really started quickly in 3 events and played quite well. And I also saw that he's got a TrackMan set up in his garage there in Manitoba, and TrackMan is just introduced. They had talked about doing it. They have 6 events coming next year. 5 they've introduced already as far as the courses are concerned. $100,000+ dollar purses to play, and he actually would post it on Instagram that he's fired up and he's entered in the first tournament to play. So here's a guy who's number 30 on the DP World Tour rankings.
He's going to play TrackMan tournament golf.
Playing TrackMan tournament golf. It is
How awesome is that? Really,
it is a professional tour. They took 250 players for the first event. They'll sign the course. They'll do the whole thing. They have to videotape while they're doing to kind of attest how they're doing it. They have very set conditions because they are playing for a fair amount of money.
Oh yeah.
It's only $130 entry fee.
Is this open? Because I know a place that I can go to play in this. Like,
it's closed now.
Andy.
Well, you might get into some of the other ones, but the first one sold out really, really fast. They're actually taking a good chunk of the purse. I think $100 from each of the entrants as well, putting that into the purse. They have close to the pins, long drives, whatever. So
I think long drive, I'm not going to be threatening anybody on, that's for sure.
So, but it's neat to see, and I'll check the entry list. It's for men and women. I already saw several LET tour players and stuff like that were entered as well. That was only when there was about 80 players in there. I'll go back and have a look and see of the 250 players. Maybe there's a few other Canadians in there as well. But yeah, pretty cool.
Now, we actually talked about, it's interesting that they're doing that, because you and I talked about the idea of when our good friend Andy McWilliams opened up, who does Golf Sim Gurus.
Yeah, it's got Celtic
friend of the
Golf Center
show.
down in Kempville.
He has it's Celtic Golf Center in Kempville. We had talked about the idea. We were looking at, okay, we have the Flagstick Open and we have the Flagstick 2-ball. And we're like,
yeah,
it really would be nice to do, an off-season event.
Mm-hmm.
How do we do that? Or, even an in-season event, but not on a golf course, and doing a TrackMan tournament. We're a limited field and stuff, and we talked about possibly doing that. And now you see this being done. Now this is a little different, because I don't think that we would get into having people play in it remotely all over the place, unless you involved other facilities in it.
Right. Yeah.
And then you made it big that way. But
it's
locally.
It's a big advancement now that the systems have become more consistent. We've seen professional indoor golf on simulators in Asia for a few years. There's actually ones where they're using qualifying. They're actually giving spots on particular tours where people are qualifying and getting exemptions to go into things. So I think it just opens up a new realm of golf and inventory for golf.
Well, esports is a thing, right? I mean, that's the thing. I mean,
100%.
they have F1 racing for esports and car, like automotive racing. They obviously have their little, Game of Thrones or whatever it is. These kids play Apex Legends or Fortnite or whatever it is.
You got me.
Fortnite. I've seen that thing. That thing is so stupid looking.
I think the old guys play Fortnite.
Yeah, no question. I've seen this Fortnite thing. They're running around playing as gingerbread men and snowmen and marshmallows and stuff. I'm like, that's fun. What is that? Come on.
I like it.
Crazy. It's crazy. So it'd be kind of a cool thing and so this is something we talked about. We are looking at the idea of doing this. Andy just asked me a couple days ago about, are you still thinking about maybe doing something like that? So
that could be fun as a social type event too. People can come and gather and hang out. We love obviously the golf community, and we love to reach out so we'll keep people updated on that one.
We're always looking at doing stuff. So
for sure,
we're open to ideas too. So if anybody has ideas and they for events and stuff that they'd like to see, and they want to shoot it by us, and we can work the logistics out and make it work, we might do it. It's what we like to do. Okay. Anything else on we got Canadian pros on the move.
So basically, I've got an article up on flagstick.com if people want to go. I basically went through the ranking reports for the professionals. So Rolex rankings and official world golf rankings, basically went through sort of the top Canadians and the top movers for the Canadians within the year. And people will be surprised not only who's at the top, but who's made the biggest moves during the year. So I've got a full outline of that. So if people want to go to flagstick.com, they could go and discover who's moving up and down, or who moved up and down in 2022. Some cool things. I mean, some people made some big moves. But they can check that out there. And one last thing we'll get to, the aforementioned Noah Steele, renamed to Team Canada for the fourth year. Ashton, they really named the whole program this week. Again, you can go up to flagstick.com, get the full synopsis who's on it. They named 57 athletes as part of Team Canada and Team Canada Next Gen, which is the new expanded program. Ashton McCullough, who's also from Kingston, is also part of Team Canada. He's back. He was on the junior team before. He's at Michigan State. And then on the Next Gen team, which is sort of the up and comers, a little bit younger, James Newton from Royal Ottawa, and Carly Mayer, who won the Ontario Women's Amateur, who's just 14 and winning that Women's Amateur. She'll be on the Next Gen as well. And then what's cool was I walked with this guy at the CP Women's Open this year, and we know him from playing in our tournaments in the past, Dr. Adam Kingsbury. Will be part of the support staff for the Next Gen. I knew that was happening. And we chatted about that. Obviously, he's done a lot
Dr. Adam Kingsbury.
I know he's done a lot of work in psychology related to sports performance. He's also done a lot of analytics work. He obviously did that for Rachel Homan's team, from the curling side. But he moved away from the curling, has an independent practice, but now he's getting back involved in golf again, and he's going to be part of that support staff. And then there's a third tier, Team Canada Next Gen, and then there's a new regional ID program that's going to involve a whole bunch of coaches and stuff across the country, about 80 plus coaches, and they haven't pushed that list out yet, but there'll be some familiar names on that in that ID program and coaches when it comes as far as people from Eastern Ontario. So
the thing with that Carly, it's so cool to see how she is like, she's trending from when we first started talking about Carly, like,
years ago
playing
when she was probably 7.
Like play junior golf tour, and it was. And now seeing her where she is, it's just like, wow. I mean, you talk about somebody who's really trending in the right direction. And you always kind of draw these comparisons. You say you're looking for the next Brooke Henderson kind of thing. Well, she's not winning like that.
No.
At that young age, but trending in the right direction with her game.
Yeah, and she's advanced a lot. I mean, I spent some time with her during the practice round of the Ontario Junior Girls the year before last when it was at Brockville. Certainly could swing the club well and do a lot of things well, but had a lot of things to add in there and learn. But she's got that potential, and she's such a sponge. She's always willing to learn. And last year she does play out of Loyalist, and that's where the Ontario Women's Amateur was last year. But shot 9 under there, was near flawless, and playing that, handled it very well. And people can go back and listen to a podcast interview did with her that was on that. But great to see her as part of the Team Canada program, the Next Gen program. It'll just provide some extra resources, extra opportunities to do some different things, and just will help out her development as it has for the other players. So good to see some Eastern Ontario content in that, and things
quite a bit too.
Update people on as we head into 2023.
Sweet. Okay, Scott, what do you think? Do we want to jump into some of this year in review stuff now? We want to pop a quick break and then get back at it. So what do you think?
Why don't we hit a couple and then we can do a bunch in the back nine. Things that stand out for you. So really what we want to talk about is sort of, big stories for this year, things that happen, especially ones that are related to Eastern Ontario. I think we just talked about one.
Exactly. Yeah, we did.
So these are, and again, you can go back to the website. I just posted this story today that are kind of the top 5 most read ones on the website, or the most popular ones. These are the ones that sort of stood out for me as I sifted through.
Okay.
But without even looking at the list, right in front of you, what events would jump out, and we can go right to that one.
I don't even need to look at the list. The single biggest event that we had in this region, in this area in 2022 was the CP Women's Open at the Hunt. I mean, that was the biggest story for a year or more leading into it, because we knew it was coming because of all the, with COVID and all the delays and stuff. We knew it was coming. There was so much anticipation surrounding it. It was all about the charitable side of what we do here in the National Capital Region. It was all about Brooke Henderson being here and hopefully being in contention. And did we expect when it happened that it was going to be as good as it actually turned out being? I don't think that I was never skeptical about whether it would be good or not. I did not expect it to be that good. Like, it was insanely good.
Yeah, especially considering 2017 and the benchmark that had set, is probably the most successful CP Women's Open of all time for attendance and so forth. But somehow they exceeded it.
They topped it.
They topped it, and they actually were awarded again the best tournament on the LPGA Tour, just as they were in 2017. And that's a combination of a number of things, logistics, attendance, charitable contributions, which obviously in this event, ended up being $2.5 million plus, a couple $1 million going to CHEO, about $500,000 heading into the Rideau Smith Falls area, obviously with the Brooks connection there. But yeah, I mean, it was a great week.
So here's a question for you. I know we're, this is the way this show is going to go. We're not going to stay on track for very long. Here's a question for you. If it's that good, okay, every time it comes here, it's well supported. Volunteers are off the chart. Money for sponsorship dollars are there. Like, everything is good. Spectators, ticket sales, the whole deal. The players love coming here and playing, so the field has always been outstanding. So is that recipe an every 5-year thing? Is that recipe an every 3-year thing? could an LPGA event in Ottawa
Yeah.
be sustainable every year like some other places?
It's too hard to do it every year because it puts too much pressure on a facility. And the problem is that not every facility can accommodate this tournament in the same way. There are some unique things with the Hunt Club as far as logistics, with the airport right there, with parking and so forth, that while other golf courses are good, they might not be able to put together the same secret sauce recipe to make it work out perfectly that way. That said, as long as CP has continued to be tied to this tournament, as far as their sponsorship is concerned, Ottawa is a key hub for them. They know and understand how important Brooke is to this tournament.
Yeah.
So they understand how important it is to bring it back to this community. So they will get it back here as fast as they can, as fast as a club will allow and what's convenient, because again, this does put a lot of serious resource pressure on a golf course, on the members that have to give up the golf course not only for a week, but they have to give up inconvenience and other factors of preparation and all sorts of different things that are going on. So it's not as simple as people would think.
Right.
It would be nice to have it back there every year as a permanent site, but you're not going to see that because again, it is the CP Women's Open, it is the Canadian Open, it has to travel, and it's going to travel more into other markets that CP is obviously important. They are important part of their business as well, which is really key. So, but yeah, it would be great, but I think you need some anticipation as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking like it'd be like every 5 years,
Yeah.
bring it back
No.
here,
Well,
because then it gives a different generation.
yeah.
Now, obviously, a player like Brooke Henderson, if she's the driving force behind the attendance and so on, she's not going to be at that level every 5 years.
Right.
So you kind of want it more often while she's still out there. But as I said before, I'm not too sure how long Brooke is going to want to be out there doing this. I still feel like she's kind of like a Lorena Ochoa kind of thing. Like she's gonna get out there, she's gonna do her thing, she's gonna be relevant and win and be great, and then she's gonna move on. And I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
The thing is, every 5 years, definitely,
yeah,
definitely, we're probably going to see that. That's for sure.
that would be awesome.
I think the fan base is so strong here. While Brooke is an important cog in that wheel, I think the fan base and golf community is so strong in the National Capital Region that it would continue to support the event to at least the extent that it does across the country or whatever. So, but yeah, great event. Just to wrap that up quickly, Paula Rito, great winner. She was very classy in making the win, played spectacularly. And we have to mention, obviously, as well, Lori Kane. Lori's last stand as far as playing the CP Women's Open, where she started, where she finished. It was an emotional week for her. Everybody who, has followed Lori during her career, been around Lori. She could not have been classier. It was a privilege to watch her play and just even walk the last 4 holes with her. As I've said before, I think I shot 600 photos on the last 4 holes.
Well, of course.
But to spend time with her and her niece Charlotte Jenkins, who was caddying for her, it was a magical week, and it just added to it as far as the combination. And if people go and look, that was Lori's last stand was actually one of our most popular stories for the year. Perfect. And Chris Stevenson did a great job on that. Chris, who caddied for her in her first events very early on, it came full circle, and 30 years later he was writing the story, and it just made it perfect. I got to snap the pictures, he got to write the story, we got to hang out with Lori, and it was a fun way to see the season finish up. So yeah.
Okay, before we take our break, since we're on the topic of CP Women's Open and the LPGA, and in particular we're on the topic of Brooke Henderson, let's just take a look at Brooke's 2022 campaign and her what she accomplished on the tour this year.
Yeah, she said she wouldn't call it her best year, but she said it was one of her best years, which is amazing when you think about
incredible
that.
Even.
I know.
Yeah.
Got she's now up to 12 LPGA tour wins. Got two this year. One at ShopRite, which is a fun golf course, that Donald Ross course down there near Atlantic City, that she's played well in the past, and won her second major, which was huge. I mean, she had won that PGA championship so early on in her career that it was a wonder of, okay, when is she going to win another major? And obviously she's been in contention. The cool part is they've also announced that Sahali, where she won her major, is going to host the KPMG Women's PGA Championship in 2024. So she's obviously looking forward to getting back there. But 22 events that she played in, 10 top tens, finished third in the race to the CME Globe, nearly 2.57 million in earnings on a tour that's hard to scratch out that much on. Just a measure of consistency, and it's nice for her also to get back to those 2-win seasons, because that's sort of been her trend throughout her career. Yeah, for sure.
Those are the expectations. I mean, one win, not even getting a win, but having a whole whack of top tens would be an accomplishment for anybody on the LPGA tour. But to have that in your mind that, for me, 2 wins a year is good. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? 2 wins a year is an okay year.
Well, if you consider that, we go all the way back to, I'd have to double check it on her official world golf rankings, but I think it's since 2015. She's been in the top 20 of the official world golf rankings since then. She's only 25. She's only 25 right now. So that, I mean, to be able to do that, and you stack that against whatever other standard you want as far as the LPGA or PGA Tour or whatever, to be able to have that level of performance and to stay there, it's tough to do. And as much as maybe some people go, oh, it's a top 10, another top 10 or whatever, top 10s are hard. It's a hard game. And the fact now she's had, I think I mentioned on the other week, she's had 200 Rolex world ranking events now, and obviously she's performed super well during those. But I would say a massive success for her. I would say it's successful for her personally as well. She really balanced her life.
I think she did. She did things a lot differently, and still had a very high level of success doing it. So that goes to prove something to yourself, that, you know what, I don't have to push myself crazy all year long and risk burning out and getting injured and stuff like that. I can pick and choose a little bit more, and I can be rested and ready, and then play well when I play, and still have a good quality of personal life too. So if you can do that, great. I mean, obviously, if you're not at her level, and you're on the LPGA, you don't have the luxury of maybe being able to pick and choose as much, and you got to grind it a little bit more week to week. But she is who she is, and that affords you an opportunity to do things a little bit differently than other people do. So good for her. Good for her. Love Brooke Henderson.
100%.
Figuratively.
Yeah, she's a great kid. So
okay, we gotta take a break. And when we come back, we'll continue our year in review and our little tidbits and throw-ins here and there, whatever happens to come to mind today, because it's kind of one of those days. So you're listening to the Flagstick podcast. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
With Z-Star Series Divide, Hideki sees it all. See? There's the spin, and boom. That's the line. Introducing the two-tone Z-Star Series Divide, only from Strixon.
Welcome back to the Flagstick podcast, our year-end show, if you will. I am Jeff Botter with Scott McLeod, as always, and we're just going to continue on our discussion about some of the things, the stories, to highlight some stories and things that happened over the last season. Kicking off our back nine. Brought to you, as it has always, every single week, by Golf Sim Gurus and our good friend Andy McWilliams. Work on your game all year round in the privacy of your own home. Custom golf simulator setups built to your specs and your budget. Visit golfsimgurus.ca to learn more. Okay, Scott, let's jump into our back nine and continue our conversation about the year that was, and kind of going back to what we already kind of alluded to, talking about Carly Mayer. and how and her trajectory and how she's trending, and trending in the right direction, obviously, because she this past year she wins the 107th Ontario Women's Amateur.
Which
and at 14.
At 14, which was cool because, she was battling back and forth with a 13-year-old and a 12-year-old in that champion, which is incredible at the amateur level. This is not the junior. This is not the Ontario junior.
No, this is the big amateur one. Like,
this is the big one. So that was fun. Following that, like I mentioned, it was out in Bath, Ontario at Loyalist Golf and Country Club, and neat to see. She was battling out with Lucy Lynn, the 12-year-old that played in the CP Women's Open this year that Monday qualified. So this is rarefied air as far as these players are concerned, and and quality golf. We're not talking way over par or whatever. I mean, Carly at one point was 10 under par, finished at 9, and Lucy was at 4. It was just great to watch. It was good competition that week, and kind of a nice other segment to that championship was the mid-amateur, the Ontario Women's mid-amateur. We had again several local players that were sort of contending there, including Augusta James, now Augusta McGuinness. What a great golf name now.
It is awesome, isn't that? Isn't that something?
She just got married, so I mean, it was good before when she was Augusta James, but if you're a fan of Ireland and you've been to Ireland for a golf trip or whatever, now she's got Guinness in her name, Mick Guinness, but still it's pretty fun, Augusta McGuinness. But she had obviously played her way up, won the Ontario Women's Amateur, played super well, won on the Symetra, now the Epson Tour, had a few chances to play in some LPGA Tour events. Her professional career was derailed by wrist injury and wrist surgery. Got back to playing the game a little bit, and this was at her home club. This is where her dad is the director of golf, and her brother is a golf professional, and she grew up at Loyalist, so she decided to give it a shot and enter in the mid amateur category.
Smart choice.
Smart choice. She was a leader early, had a rough second day, but ended up coming through in the end to win the title, which, really went full circle for her. And she was certainly overjoyed. And it was great to see. Gus is somebody that I've followed since she was 12 years old. Followed her, throughout her entire career, went back and forth a lot when she was in her professional career and how she was coming through. And, she said, what was neat about this event is it sort of brought back her joy of golf again and going and playing it. She sort of rekindled, that competitive spirit. So nice to see 2 local players, as far as the region is concerned, win those titles at the Ontario Women's Amateur when it was held here in this region.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
see,
for sure.
Great good stories. Stuff. I mean, these are the kind of things that over the course of the year, I mean, we see and hear pretty much everything as it relates to golf, particularly, in this region. And, for us, over 25 years of doing what we do, players like Augusta and her brother Austin and, her dad, and players like Carly and Brooke and Brooke's sister Brittany and so on and so on, Brad Fritch. And these are players that we have followed their career. Nobody has followed the careers to the extent that we have of these players for, as long as we have. I mean, from the time that they were young junior golfers, barely breaking 80, competing in intersectionals and junior events and junior field days and things like that throughout the region, starting back in 1996. To this point, watching these careers develop. Now, not all of them develop into Brooke Henderson type careers.
No.
Of all the players we've followed over the course of the years, Brooke is probably the one that has had the most success.
Yeah, of course.
But there are so many that have had some level of success, whether it's Brad, having the number of times that he's been on the PGA Tour and the Corn Ferry Tour, and Lee Curry and the career that he's had, and Carl Desjardins, when he kind of started to get it going, and it's just, and the list goes on and on and on. Matt McQuillan. I mean, Matt McQuillan was tied for 4th at the John Deere Classic on the PGA Tour. I mean, you were down there the day that he finished the 6th round final stage of 6th round of final stage of Q School. Just keep that in mind, because that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
But you were down there when he did it, and the grind that it just. This is why we do what we do. I think people, again, getting off on a, going a different direction here, but this is what shows like this, where we start going back and looking at a year like this and thinking, you know what, how cool is it that we have been there?
Yeah.
For all of this happening.
And the thing is, it's not cool for the sake of just saying you've been there. It's cool for the personal aspect of it. And I guested on a podcast this week, and one of the things they asked about was, the nature of media and, why we've been around that long. And, it's again, it's personal. It's caring about these stories before they become stories, creating the connection with the people. And also, it's not about just, latching on to their success at professional golf. I'm just as excited that Augusta James, now Augusta McGuinness, is now the general manager at Briar Fox in Marysville. Yeah. And it's fun to keep following that story. And so it's success golf related and not golf related. I'm just as proud of, players that go on to, Adam Kingsbury, we already mentioned him in the first part of it. Dr. Adam Kingsbury. It's nice to follow his success when, he was a golfer, an upcoming golfer and a competitive golfer, but it's just as cool to see him have professional success. In some ways now it's obviously linked to golf as well, but in their field. And it's that personal tie to these people.
Well, we still have that connection with all these these players, whether they're still in the golf industry, whether it's as an amateur, as a professional, as a general manager, not in the golf industry at all. With some 100%. Of them, we still have that connection where we can reach out on, DM them on Twitter or text them on Facebook Messenger, or message them because we have their phone number or their email. Like, we're still in contact and connections with all of these people for the last, like, I've had conversations in the last, 3 or 4 years with golfers that I covered them playing golf back in the mid to late 90s. Yeah. Like when I started, they're saying, hey, remember when you come out and we did this, and it's.
I think the important part there is for people to realize and understand it's not just, you're not just doing it just from a pay perspective, and it's not a job. These are people you're invested in personally. And it's nice that you have the mutual respect with them and then back to us that, we can stay connected to them and friends. And I mean, that's the reward. And I talked about that in a number of times this year. And that's the fun part, because really in the end, they're just people, so, and we're all people. So it's not about just their accomplishments. It's about personally what that means to them on that level. More than anything, more than what happens in the TVs and the headlines and whatever. It's seeing them move on to, have families and, have other successes away from the golf course. And again, this is another year of that. That's another year of that.
The longevity of what we've been doing. And this is something that I hope that people that are listening and watching, particularly the golf industry people, whether it's the golf course operators and managers, understand why we're here.
Yeah.
Yes.
These stories don't get told. These stories do not get told otherwise.
None of the stuff that you're reading about, that you read about on flagstick.com, or that you have read in the last 25 years in Flagstick magazine, when we had the print version of the magazine, none of this stuff, none of these stories, none of these articles, none of this stuff gets written if we're not here doing it. Because long time ago, mainstream media, if you want to call it mainstream media, stopped caring about regional golf, stopped caring about local golf unless it was a really big deal. And that's understandable.
And we're not saying it's the reporters that don't care. No. It's not. It's
those are management decisions. Right. So what's important for column inches in a newspaper and stuff. Trust me, this is what I've done for the better part of my life. I spent time working in the daily and the weekly newspaper business before Flagstick even got started. I understand the value of column inches and space, and how much you can afford, where something goes in the newspaper, and what stories are important. For what we do, these stories are important. For mainstream media, at one point years ago, when I first started this, and Eddie McCabe was still around doing stuff, these stories mattered. You know, Gord Holder was just getting his cutting his teeth in covering local and regional golf. He started showing up at all the tournaments. He was a copy editor, and this was a side gig for him to cover golf. So, you know, so that's what I'm saying is that, yes, there's no print magazine anymore. So when I hear that, you know, it's too bad there's no print magazine. Well, there's a reason for that. Understand that. There's a financial reason why there's no print magazine anymore. Okay. So we are where we're at, but we haven't stopped doing what we're doing.
No,
nothing's changed. Only the medium that we use to deliver that information has changed. We have Flagstick Digest newsletter. We have flagstick.com, the magazine. We have this podcast. That's how we're getting that information out now, not by delivering a print magazine to golf courses throughout the region, which we'd love to do.
Yeah,
but financially these days, that doesn't make sense.
Right. And people have to understand that, you know, while we're journalists, we support the game. We're not necessarily trying to be cheerleaders, you know, from a journalism, but we're supporting to help and grow the game and support the game. And unfortunately, you know, that's not happening otherwise. And as hard as people try to do stuff independent, we're independent. We're not owned by a retailer. We're not co-owned by a conglomerate or whatever, like maybe some other, you know, publications or whatever the case may be. You know, so our support has to come from, you know, entities within the golf industry. So, you know, again, we understand golf courses are busy. Their job is not to do news and information. Yes, it's been great to see golf courses kind of, you know, engage their audience and try to do some things with social media. But what they've found out is that it's very difficult to do that on a consistent basis and engage that. So if they want to grow their audience, they need to tap into our audience, our overall growth, rather than just screaming at, you know, 20 followers on Twitter. It's not going to do it for them from a marketing side. So we'll not get into too much of the business side of it.
That could be a whole other podcast in itself, talking about, you know, things like, you know, what does it really mean to grow the game? And I think, you know, let's just set that up. I want to do a podcast in the new year, because I want to touch this topic, because I'm frankly getting sick and tired of people out there claiming that they're doing things to grow the game. Growing the game does not necessarily mean what some people in some organizations believe actually grows the game. So
I agree. 100%.
We're going to leave it there, and we're going to have a conversation about that, because I think that's an important topic when you talk about. So
let's get back to the stories that matter, the ones that people haven't really been talking about. And I guarantee you, you know, when we start to talk about something like the Ottawa Valley Golf Association, and obviously thousands of stories that we've shared in the years, it's been great to see. And obviously Joe McLean, you know, that just retired with us this year, you know, a big part of, you know, the coverage for with us and our connection with the OVGA. And obviously, you know, you've been on that board for the OVGA, but to see them establish their Hall of Fame, you know, last year, and now to see that continue into 2022 with their inductees has been great to see. And you know, they obviously had an initial slate of inductees this year,
which happens for sure.
And then they added one more late in the year, which we've obviously talked about on the show here. But you know, let's look at that categories, and you know, they have a player category and they have a builder category. But you know, let's look at those inductees and recognize them again for
well, I think I mean, from a playing perspective, I mean, you know, I see Lee Curry and Graham Gunn, and Andy Nezen and Bonnie Wolf, and Davey Black. You know, these are, you know, when these people were inducted and announced, I mean, a lot of people would draw their attention right off the bat to people like Lee Curry, and Graham Gunn, and even Andy Nezen and Bonnie Wolf. I mean, these are, you know, household names. Davey Black, not as much. You know, so, you know, being able to talk about those and have bios on those people and see them inducted into the Hall of Fame is super exciting, you know, from a player category perspective. I mean, I love seeing this kind of stuff. I love seeing people get the recognition that they deserve for what they've done in the game. And that's where you talk about, you know, when we talk about just sideline growing the game, the player in the player category, that those people are, that's personal accomplishments, what they've done in the game and what they've 100%. Accomplished. What they've done doesn't do a whole lot to grow the game. I mean, it might do a little bit to get people, encourage people to play, but not a lot. in the builder category, that's where you really start to see the people that have devoted their time.
Yeah.
People like Joe, who were just a late inductee into the Hall of Fame this year. People like Joe who have given their time for so long in so many different areas and so many different facets of the game for the purpose of helping get more people involved, helping those that are already involved, have a place and a great experience. Like that's, so when you look at those other two people in the builder category too, those are huge names.
Yeah, and I think what happens is that, I think it's underrated, the builder categories in most Hall of Fames in general. You just see, and again, it's not to diminish, players. I mean, a lot of people will sit there and say, oh, well, a player did something that one particular week or a few particular weeks, and they're getting a lot of fame for that. Yeah, they put a lot of work into that as well.
Yeah.
So again, we're not diminishing that.
Nope.
But just understand that, Hall of Fames generally will go towards the people that get the big headlines.
Yeah.
That tends to be it. And
but what about the ones that don't get the big headlines?
Right. And it's no fault of anyone that happens, but it's not as sexy to talk about somebody being a volunteer and, developing the game and, ascending to the ranks of the board for the CLGA, which obviously became part of the Golf Canada in as case of Mary Drummy is concerned. These people put day in and day out behind the game. And in most cases, they're not doing this paid. That's the other side of it. And I'm not saying the players are getting paid or whatever for this, but these people in the builder category, it's not their job, right? But they're doing things outside of it. And even the people that where it is their job, they're usually getting recognized because of the excessive amount of stuff they did outside of their assignment. So Joe would be a great example.
Yes,
he obviously has, he obviously had things that he was doing particular for us, for an example, but his impact goes way beyond that as far as things
it's deep. It's not just a Flagstick thing. That's why we have to kind of clarify, and we did when we first announced that Joe won, was inducted in the Hall of Fame, is that Flagstick is a small blip on the radar of what a person like Joe McLean has done for golf in this region for the last God knows how many years. I mean, it goes back to pre-OVGA and back, with the assistant professionals way back before he started doing what he's doing now for the PGA of Ottawa. It's the depth of what these people have done for golf that is important to the growth of the game.
You look at somebody like John Holtzman, who was obviously affiliated with Rideau for many years, and he did so much on the background, with the various associations, with Maccabi Games, with as an official. I mean, there's just even doing research on that sometimes is difficult because one, the person doesn't want to talk about it themselves of what they did. Second, it doesn't necessarily get a lot of attention, but you see how important it is because you know what, a lot of these players that end up going off onto, let's say they're going off to the junior nationals. And it happens to be in Quebec or something like that. There's usually somebody that has to go with them or has to be leading that team and volunteer and take time away from their job and support them and organize a lot of those things. And those are the people within the association. So people like Mary Drummy and John Holtzman being in the builder category, tremendous. And then again, no disrespect to, Graham Gunn, Andy Neeson, Bonnie Wolf, who obviously we loved, Lee Curry, Davey Black, who made an impact, obviously was a runner-up in the Canadian Open back in 1911. His son Ken Black won a PGA Tour event in 1936.
1911, the year that the CPGA was formed, is it not?
Correct, exactly. PGA of Canada, and he was integral. He was part of that as far as that early board, and he was a pro at Rivermead at the time. But yeah, it's neat to see these people recognized. I know they're working on a slate for 2023, and we'll be excited to kind of announce that.
Yeah.
And just like every Hall of Fame, there is a long slate of people that need to be recognized for what they do. They don't need it personally, but they deserve it for the respect, to respect kind of what they've done. And so far so good as far as the Ottawa Valley Golf Association and their committee. They're obviously putting together a great slate of people that need to be recognized. And congratulations to all those that were inducted in 2022.
Okay, now looking at our notes here, there's a ton of stuff. We're not going to get through all of this by any stretch of the imagination. So let's take a look at. Let me think here.
Grab whatever you like, whatever comes to mind.
Let's take a look at. Well, let's on the same line of Hall of Fame. We'll look at another sports award.
Sure.
The Ottawa Sports Awards, Golfer of the Year. This is something that generally speaking, when they do the golf side of the Ottawa Sports Awards, they do tend to. They've always kind of asked for our input on who they should look at.
Yeah,
in this
especially if it's uncertain.
Yes, if it's not obvious.
Yeah.
And this I guess it's the 2021 though, right?
Yeah, because they're awarding it this year, recognizing the person's play in
James Newton of Royal Ottawa, who you mentioned is also part of that Team Canada program.
Yep, the Next Gen program. Yeah,
was awarded the Ottawa Sports Award Golfer of the Year for 2021.
Yeah, he was.
That's a huge accomplishment. He had an outstanding 2021.
Yeah, certainly.
As far as his accomplishments, his playing accomplishments, and
he blew away the field at the Ontario Junior at Whistlebear. He went super deep there, had 1 million birdies.
It's crazy.
And it was such a great showcase for him to showcase his talent and his abilities. And, that was obviously propelled him to, now he's at Rutgers University in New Jersey as far as his scholarship there. And, as you mentioned, now part of the Golf Canada Next Gen program, which is just going to help him out.
It's awesome. More. And the Flagstick Open this year, finally getting back to our to our regular date. We've recently at the beginning of this year, we recently inked a 5-year deal with Equinel for them to continue to be the host club for the Flagstick Open for the next 5 years, including this year. And it was nice to get back there, and at the same time, it was nice to get. Who would have thought that the guy that won it the year before was going to defend and become only the second the third 2-time winner. Yes, sorry.
We have a third. We have a 3-time winner.
Yes, that's right too. We do.
Yeah.
Yes. Who will never be a 3-time winner again.
No,
or never be a 4-time winner. Let's put it that way.
So he has an opportunity again. So Brendan Smith obviously did well, and especially, you know what? And I'm going to give props to ourselves and our team because we were able to get this event in. Considering this was the weekend, a May-long weekend.
It was
when we had the massive storm come through the Ottawa region, was, as we talked about earlier, had some implications as far as power, weather, trees, everything like that. But somehow we got 36 holes done with a little pause in there.
We got the meal in too.
We got the meal in under the and we'll give a lot of credit to the team at Equinel for getting that done.
Unreal.
Obviously with no power. It was definitely a trying event. I mean, I don't know if it could have any more tumultuous circumstances than that. and the players, obviously playing through, some heavy rain on that second day, but Brendan Smith, kudos to him, 73 after his 68, and the 73 was miraculous considering the weather.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the more challenging Flagstick Opens to deal with from a scoring perspective. We had to drive late at night, drive to Tim Hortons in Winchester to jump on their Wi-Fi so that I could get the new draw up and whatnot.
There we go. I'm back. I'm out of focus. If you're watching on YouTube,
sorry, that's too funny.
If you're on any of the audio platforms,
you won't even notice that.
You won't even notice. But yeah, my camera kept going out of focus as I leaned back and whatever. So I apologize to the YouTube people, but sorry. You on Audible, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Good Pods. We're on lots of platforms. You didn't see that, but you can.
Some other quick little hits just to get these in because I think they're important before we wrap up this show this week. Gord Percy, GM head professional at Smith Falls Golf Club, was installed as the 49th president of the PGA of Canada. That's awesome. Gord's a great guy. He's tailor-made for that kind of thing.
He really is.
He's just a very from the standpoint of a management kind of guy, he's the perfect person to be the president of the PGA Canada.
Yeah, and he demonstrated that all year long. And I'm only sad that it's only a 2-year term. But I know he'll be involved with the boards and stuff for quite some time. But you're right. He's got a great slate of things that he wants to get done. He's already accomplished a lot in his first season, and good on Gord. And that was a great appointment, and he's doing a fabulous job. Although it's a busy job, he's traveling a lot more.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So good on Gord.
Lee Curry and Graham Gunn win the PGA of Canada Ottawa's own championships. Not unfamiliar name, not unfamiliar names whatsoever to victories on the Flagstick.com Players Tour.
Yeah.
Between the two of them, they have quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite a few. I think Lee now has the record.
7. I think so. Yeah.
7 zone championships.
Yeah. Something
That's
like that.
insane.
Yeah.
I remember when 3 was the record.
Yeah, well, times change.
Big time. And I would say, let's say one other kind of thing to say, with respect to the OVGA. The OVGA also this year celebrated 100 years of women's city and district or women's competition.
Yeah, so
100 years.
100 years, which not a lot of regions can say. So during the city and district championships, they invited 12 ladies from the various clubs, the original clubs that competed in 1922 to convene and have this Founders Cup competition, and they gave crystal awards to them. So it was a great way to recognize that history of competition, recognizing a fact, of course, there's been women's golf in the region for a long time, but that's the organized event within the OVGA, and the men really were only a year older than that as far as the Ottawa Valley Golf Association and the predecessors, the District Golf Association, the section under Golf Quebec as it was. But yeah, cool to see, and they did that in July at Royal Ottawa.
Sorry, before we give it up for the rest of the season. One other Flagstick related thing. We the Flagstick 2-ball championship. I know we talk about the Flagstick Open because the Flagstick Open has a very long history now, which is great. It's great that we have a long history of an event, right?
Yeah, well, 10 years for that event. Yeah. And obviously we had Smuggler Shootout going back further, and we've been sponsoring events since 2000, back to the Garrison Open days.
Yes, exactly. But we launched a brand new event in September at the Brockville Country Club after postponing it during the COVID time. We finally made it happen, and it was awesome. It really was awesome, and I know that everybody that participated was super pumped about the format of the event. Being a 2-ball event where everybody played their own ball. But it was a
it was cumulative with their partner.
Exactly. So each player had to play. So it wasn't like you have a bad hole, it's your partner's ball that counts. No. It was both balls counted,
and that mattered. That mattered in the end, for sure.
It did, and we did it as it was flighted, but everybody played the same tees too. We were able to, because it's the country club, it really lent itself to being able to set the course up the same for everybody. And there were no issues with that whatsoever. It went off well, and we know right off, as soon as it was over, we had a whole whack of people saying, I definitely want to get into this for next year. Definitely want to get. So we're looking forward to that. And that is another long-term commitment that we have with Brockville Country Club to have that event there in the fall. So we've got sort of our spring and fall event, and we've still, like we said, we're talking about trying to get something going in the summer as a third event, whatever that event happens to be. But I just wanted to make sure I mentioned the 2-ball because it was a long time getting that thing off the ground, and once it got off the ground, it was pretty awesome. It was a pretty amazing event.
And I talked to Jason Walmark, the general manager at Brockville Country Club, this week, and he's stoked about the opportunity, continuing that relationship and growing that event. as you mentioned, everybody, as soon as they got done, was like, man, sign me up for next year. More emails, phone calls, everything, inquiring people go, okay, I got to play in this next year. Yeah, you got to play in it. So grab your partner now and figure it out. And we'll get registration open as soon as possible. Yes. And get that sorted out, because it was a fun weekend, a little bit more low pressure, but still competitive. And as we said, the flights worked out really well, and it made a difference. Even when we had an A and a C partnered together and playing in B, there was drama right down to the very last green. Maybe not in the overall division, because obviously there was great play there by Phil Patterson and Adam Falco. They sort of went
somebody needs to be dethroned in 2023. And for all those watching and listening, somebody needs to be dethroned.
Challenge those lads.
Exactly. The gauntlet has been thrown down. The line in the sand has been drawn, and we need some competitors to come in and cross that line. Cross the line.
They will resist, but you can give it your best shot. That's for sure.
Okay. Well,
awesome, dude.
This has been a great show. It's been an awesome show. We obviously, here at Flagstick and the Flagstick podcast, we do wish everybody a very safe and enjoyable holiday season with your families. We're coming right back at you again in early in 2023. Can't tell you exactly when, but we're gonna take a much needed break to spend time with our families and recharge the batteries a little bit, and maybe modify the format of this podcast a little bit. And you might have got a little preview of what that might look like today with this podcast or on this podcast. But it's been good. So, thanks for doing this, Scotty Mac, all year. 28 episodes.
Yeah, hard to believe.
I know.
It's been fun, and we'll have lots more for next year. We've got a lot of great ideas. Obviously, we had a nice little meeting this past week, had a little breakfast and chatted up some ideas and some
Sunset
plans.
Grill, baby.
Yeah, chatted up some plans for next year, and I think we got some cool things that not only marketing partners will like, but our audience will like as well. And got to thank all the listeners for tuning in and sticking with us.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we had a bobble here and there where you were sick or I was sick, and we weren't able to maybe record kind of every single week. But as you mentioned, we were able to crank out 28 episodes, and you can expect more continuing more continuing content for 2023, and we're looking forward to doing that. And who knows, maybe there's some sexy hats.
I was gonna say, like, anybody watching or seen Scott's Instagram, seen these hats. Okay, this is not a mistake. This is not necessarily by chance. These bad boys are available, and we will let you know a little more detail when we iron out the details on how we're going to make them available. But we've got some merch that you'll be able to kind of go and acquire. And for those that do want some merch now, go to CanadianProShop.com.
Right.
Still some head covers. Some of the limited edition Flagstick head covers available on that website, and maybe too late for the holidays, but an after Christmas or an after holiday gift is always a good thing. You can check out that merch, but stay tuned. Some of this stuff will be available in the new year, and we'll let you know how that happens.
And we got to thank our marketing partners this year, the people that supported the show.
Yeah, very much so.
Some great companies. You can go back through each of the shows, and obviously we have a listing of everybody who supported us. Thanks to the teams there, and recognizing and understanding that these stories and the communication of these stories and this content is super important. And we're happy that we have their support in that pursuit, and we hope the people that are listening go and support these people who support us. And then it just becomes a community. Just everybody supports each other, and that's what we've done for 26 years. 27. I don't know what we're on now. We're losing it now.
I know. The years start blurring together.
Yeah, and the hair gets grayer. So
that's why we wear hats.
Exactly. Thanks to everybody for that support, and we promise that same support back. And as you said, I hope everybody has a great holiday season, and get some rest.
It's a lot of support.
I think we need a little bit of rest too. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you for this, Scotty Mac. And just as an extension to the thank yous, I'm going to thank your sponsors for this week's episode, Metcalf Golf Club and Golf Sim Gurus. And of course, our presenting sponsor this week, Srixon Golf Canada. Whether you're looking for a premium urethane option in the Z-Star, quality budget option, the soft feel, or somewhere in between with the Q-Star Tour, Srixon Golf is bound to have the perfect golf ball for your game. Visit srixon.ca for more information. We really hope you've enjoyed our 28 episodes in 2022 of the Flagstick podcast. Whether you've been listening or watching, be sure to follow us continually on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Subscribe to us on Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and don't forget to hit us up on the YouTube channel. Very important. Like us and click the notification bell to make sure that you never miss a single episode of anything that we put up on the YouTube channel, this podcast or otherwise. Also, make sure you visit flagstick.com always, because new content has popped up there every single day. Maybe not every day over the holidays, but normally every single day we'll get good stuff up there for you, delivered to you. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, I am Jeff Botter.
And I'm Scott McLeod.
Remember, always go for the stick.